Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of Arrow Season 5, Episode 2, The Recruits. So, Wild Dog is trying to chase down a robber he's able to shoot him in the arm, but then Oliver Oliver is able to catch him. Oliver is able to subdue him with one of his trick arrows, as well as the guy that Wild Dog was chasing, and tells him that and asks him, like, do you want to just be some guy in a hockey match, or do you want to be something else? And so even though he frees Wild Dog from his restraints, he leaves him an invitation to meet him for training, and that's where he meets Evelyn Sharp, who played the imposter Black Canary towards the end of last season, as well as Curtis, who are all there to train. The problem is that, against Felicity's advice, even though Felicity doesn't feel like it's a good idea, Oliver decides to remain in his Arrow persona and not reveal his identity, and basically uses a Bratva technique, in which his initiation was he had to run past a group of fighters and ring a bell, and in the flashback you realize that he'd figured out the whole idea was to work together with the other people being initiated, and he convinced the other recruits to act as a distraction for the fighters while he got past them and rang the bell. The problem is that because he won, all the other recruits were executed, and Anatoly tells him that the only person he can rely on is himself, and even though Oliver argued that he never would have gotten him to ring that bell if it wasn't for them. So it's the reason why he kept on his costume and kept on his Arrow persona, is to keep himself emotionally distant from the recruits, and that he felt like the reason why the original Team Arrow, separated, was because they all got too attached, and that if he didn't get too attached to the recruits, then he wouldn't feel the same. If anything happened to them, he wouldn't feel the same level of grief that he felt for Laurel's death. But the problem is, it kind of backfires on him, and it just ends up, and he's single-handedly keeps beating the crap out of them, and they don't get the point of the exercise because they don't understand, because he won't explain to them what the purpose of the exercise was, and he ends up being almost verbally abusive towards them. And although he ends up taking them on one mission to go undercover, because he gets this company called Ameritech to finance a fundraising event in which doctors are volunteering to reopen hospitals and treat sick children and the injured and from bad parts of town. They'll go undercover while he's, shows up in Oliver Queen persona as the mayor trying for publicity. There's this assailant named Ragman who shows up, who apparently even though they say they're just supposed to be more grounded, there wasn't supposed to be more magic. They don't say whether it was magic or not. They kind of leave it somewhat ambiguous, but he does have the same ability where his rags are wraps around people. He attacked the vice president earlier. Now he's trying to attack the CEO at that event, and when a little girl gets injured, Wild Dog gets pissed off and tries to attack Ragman, which keeps Oliver from using a trick arrow to release it to trap him. But even though Wild Dog's able to grab a piece of his costume for analysis, Oliver and his Green Arrow persona ends up berating the team to the point where they eventually end up walking out on him, and even Curtis walks out on him because of the fact that he calls Oliver out for not trusting or respecting people, and that's why they didn't stand by him. And it's Felicity that's the voice of reason that tells him that Team Arrow stood by him because they respected and knew Oliver Queen. They knew how passionate he was about how wanting to make a difference. It wasn't he was open. It's because getting close to them is what made the original team work. And so it's what, and so in the, but he he's still being kind of stubborn. He decides that he was going to go out on his own to investigate more of Ameritech because after Thea leaves the event, she's talking to Quentin about trying to beef up security at the volunteer event, but the problem is that he showed up drunk, and much to Thea's dismay, and Oliver's reluctant to hire him because of his drunken stupor, and Thea eventually convinces him to become like a deputy mayor as well as a means of honoring Laurel's memory, and he gives a really good performance where he's like breaking down and just realizing like how hard it is for him to cope with losing one daughter, and his other daughter is like off like in the time-space continuum somewhere on Legends. He's kind of like by himself. He has no one to commiserate with, but it seems like he at least considers or takes up Thea's offer. But Thea, when she was leaving the hospital event, finds out that the CEO was in bed with Tobias Church, the villain of the week, the mob boss from last week, and is selling him weaponry just to keep their company from going bankrupt. And the reason why Ragman was attacking Ameritech is because that company was the one who created the nuclear weapons that Damien Darhk used on Genesis Day, and he's like the sole survivor of the Haven Rock nuclear explosion. So it's kind of implied that it could be magic, because otherwise, like, how else could the guy survive a nuclear explosion? And Felicity is overhearing all this, like, horrified, and you can tell she's feeling like teary-eyed and guilt-ridden from how she had to divert that missile to that location just to reduce civilian casualties and death. But just as she's about to kill the CEO, he eventually comes to Oliver's rescue when he's about to be killed by Tobias Church, and Oliver convinces him that when he learns that Ragman he got his suit from his father as protection. Oliver says that, yeah, my dad died protecting me too, to try to save my own life, and neither of them would have wanted us to be killers, so he agrees that he can't continue his crusade alone, and so he asks Ragman to come on board. And we don't see him at the end of the episode, but we do see the other recruits, Evelyn, Wild Dog, and Curtis show up, and he reveals his identity to the team, and he realizes he made mistakes, and that even though Wild Dog doesn't like the code name, they all agree to follow him as a result. Diggle's off on his own adventure overseas, like he's working with a platoon trying to recover a nuclear weapon and a trigger from a group of rebels, and you can tell him acting as a mentor figure to a young and inexperienced soldier, in the same way, or at least like a shoulder to lean on, the same way Oliver did with him. But I mean, it doesn't have the same resonance because he's just like he's a one-off character who gets killed off because you find out that the platoon Diggle's working with is trying to steal a nuclear weapon for their own personal reasons, basically as a deterrent to use against magic users like Damien Darhk or metahumans like the ones from Central City. So, and then they're trying to frame Diggle for the new soldier's murder, and they even wrote up a confession, and all the soldiers were going to testify against him. So, it's obvious like this is the reason why he ends up coming back to the team later on, while he will come back to the team in later episodes. But it's kind of interesting to see how he's going to get out of the situation. And the last shot of the episode is Tobias Church being attacked by Prometheus and telling him that the only reason why he's letting him live is because he doesn't kill the Green Arrow. And he says if he kills the Green Arrow, he dies too. And he reveals what his name, his code name is, but we still don't know anything. We still don't know what his identity is. And maybe my only gripe with it is that even though the Ragman and Prometheus costumes look too similar, even though Ragman's costume has like shades of green on it to try to distinguish it, and almost kind of looks a little bit like his mask kind of looks a little bit like the Scarecrow from Batman Begins. It's the fact that I don't know. That's one way to distinguish it, and it feels like they're relying too much on the special effects from the rags to differentiate the two characters. But it's also the fact that then there's Prometheus's costume, which looks like a cross between the Dark Archer's costume and Scarecrow. So it doesn't seem like it was the most creative thing on the costuming department's part. But it is kind of interesting that I do like the twist that Green Arrow is going to have basically a metahuman on his team, a regular metahuman, an ally besides Barry, and Vixen and everybody else. But I don't know. This probably would piss people off because they kept saying like, "Oh, we're gonna go back to basics and not take out all the magic and whatnot." But I don't think magic was the biggest problem from season 3 and 4. It was the fact that they spent so much time with character shilling fan favorite and breakout characters that it came at the expense of, other people's storylines and the season storylines, while simultaneously removing what made those breakout characters so appealing in the first place. Season 3 they did it with Malcolm Merlyn. And season 4, they especially did it with Felicity, to the point where even though it seems like Felicity has not shown any signs of the self-righteous hypocrisy from the last 2 seasons, early season 4, and Malcolm hasn't shown up yet, so maybe that's a step in the right direction. I mean, time will tell if that will stick. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on the episode. I feel like it's another solid episode. Still had the vibe of seasons 1 and 2. And I don't mind if they have like some, metahuman show up every now and then. Like I don't think it'll take away that much from the whole like grounded appeal. It won't become like, it'll still be able to like differentiate itself from the Flash and Legends in terms of like the sci-fi fantasy aspects of it. So it's gonna. I mean, as long as it's much more toned down here, I don't mind it personally. But how do you guys feel about the Ragman's appearance and how it's gonna be more, I guess, more supernatural or a metahuman on the team? What do you guys think of the episode as a whole? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.